guess we're almost ready. All right, here we go. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners. I invite you all to rise for an invocation with Joe Garkovich from Mercy Today Ministries and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. God of creation, we thank you for this day, another day in which to serve you. As this group of men and women gathered this morning to do this important work, I pray that you would grant them wisdom, courage, and compassion to make the best decisions for all that are involved. I would also like to lift up all of our county employees this day and ask you to watch over them and guide them as they perform their important work. And all these prayers we send to you in his name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Let's have roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Grantham.
Here.
Commissioner McFall.
Present.
County Attorney Jackson.
Present.
County Manager Bryant.
Present.
Planning and Zoning Director Simpleman.
Present.
Thanks, Talia. We move next to approval of today's agenda. Gentlemen, I am not aware of any changes we need to make.
Nor mine, Madam Chair. I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve today's agenda as presented. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Up next is our consent agenda. It's longer than normal. I see we are approving a lot of applications, signatures, and policy signatures and some different things. We also are scheduling one public hearing in the future. This will be held on August 9th. It's a Tuesday, 10 o'clock a.m. right here in this very room. We are scheduling, two separate public hearings. A special review use 21-005 for the Observer Ranch Campground. This is to request approval of a special review use permit for a travel trailer campground and learning center located at 4509 County Road 123. Also, we will be considering that same day a revised accessory dwelling unit amendment number 17 to the Fremont County Zoning Resolution Section 9.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve today's consent agenda. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Up next is administrative and informational topics. We start this morning with staff and elected officials, and we have a county manager report from Sunny Bryant. Good morning, Sunny.
Good morning, thank you. So just a couple of quick updates. We still have several employment opportunities available throughout the county. So if you know of somebody who is looking for an employee or a position, let us know. We have all of those posted on the county website, so you can find those at www.fremontco.com. We have finalized the RFP for the Housing Strategies Project, so that has been posted on the county website. And so if you know of an organization that may be looking for some type of project that they're capable of working on that, send them in that direction. Once again, the county website is www.fremontco.com. And just a couple of meetings that we've attended. So last Thursday, we met with Michelle Barnes, who is the executive director of the Department of Human Services at the state. And so it was great to get her down in Fremont County and express some of the issues that we're having and hear some of the things that they have going on at the state. And then yesterday we met, the commissioners and I met with city council members and administrators from the city of Florence and the city of Canyon City. So it was really good to see what all they're working on and just to have that collaboration. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Sunny. Gentlemen, elected officials, comments? We know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, say it
Start with
anyway.
that. So we are still under stage 1 fire restrictions in unincorporated Fremont County. We are getting some rains, but it is still dry. So be very careful when you're out and about. One other thing is, it's getting really, really close, like a week or so away from fair time. So Fremont County Fair starts the 22nd, goes through the 30th. The bulk of it's going to be the 26th through the 30th, I think, but the 27th is when or 22nd, sorry, is when it kicks off, and it is out at Pathfinder Park. It's going to be new and exciting, and it's going to be fun, so I encourage everybody to get out and see the work that the kids have done on their projects for the last year, and enjoy the fair. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Grantham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, I guess, when we were here last time, 2 weeks ago, that was Election Day, primary election, and I'd probably just like to give my thanks to the great work that our elections staff did in the clerk's office and across the county, and the volunteers that come in to do the counting and the canvassing and all the things that make this state and county and nation function in order to move on through these elections. I really appreciate all the hard work that they do. That being said, I'd also like to thank them for taking the brunt of a lot of things, especially some of the false things that are being said about elections, particularly now about even the primary election. And they do a fantastic job in getting the accurate counts and making sure every single one of our votes count. And I appreciate all the flack that they take falsely, but they do a wonderful job, and I just don't think it can be said enough. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. I have a couple of things this morning I would like to mention first. At least a couple of us will be out of office starting next Thursday through probably the following Monday. We have a National Association of Counties annual meeting that's going to be happening in Adams County this year. So it's going to be a big event. It's going to bring more than 500 people here to Colorado, up in the Denver area. And it's going to be nice to be able to drive to one of these for a change. Instead of having to get on an airplane, which is a scary thing these days. But we have a lot of really great meetings with that, a lot of good training. We have different sessions with Rural Action Caucus, with the Colorado Caucus, a lot of different things happening. So always a very informative time. 2 weeks ago at our last meeting, we had talked about our accountability report that we finally got finished for the year of 2021. Rather than running through it all last week, we decided to maybe mention some of the highlights during our upcoming meetings. So this morning, I would like to take a moment to recognize 2 of our offices here in Fremont County and to just run a few things past you that happened in 2021. So Veteran Services, we have Marty Peak, who is our Veteran Services Officer, and he does an incredible job. In 2021, he completed 735 telephone calls and voicemails. He conducted 483 office visits and appointments, including to receive and write correspondence, not including emails. He also participated in 40 separate outreaches, which includes home visits and other meetings. And he processed large volumes of government and Veterans Administration forms. And when he says large volumes, he's not kidding, large volumes. We're incredibly lucky to have Marty here. He actually is a half-time employee. He only works 20 hours a week, but he does a really, really great job here in Fremont County for our veterans. The other one that I wanted to mention is our weed management program led by Brittany. I just lost Brittany's last name. Pearson.
We all did. We're all
Sorry about that. She gave us a summary of the field work that she had done last year. She did some partnerships with private landowners and land managers, the Fremont Conservation District, the Upper Arkansas Cooperative Weed Management Area, and many different governments and research agencies. During her work last year, they were able to help 18 landowners treat more than 77 acres of noxious weeds here in Fremont County. They treated with DOT 24 separate acres, with the BLM 117 acres, the State Land Board 11, the City of Canyon City 11, the City of Florence 1.3, Fremont County 10, and CDOT 33.25. One of the more interesting things they do there is they also do biocontrol releases. they release some sort of biological resource that actually helps treat those. And so they did 20 plus acres with Canada thistle rust fungus last year, 4 acres with leafy spurge flea beetle, 6 acres with the northern tamarisk beetle, and another 3 acres with field bindweed mite. So I think those things are really interesting and fascinating. And just another reminder, don't forget you can go online and look at fremontco.com and find our annual accountability report for 2021 there on the homepage. All right, anything else from anyone up here? We turn next to citizens who wish to address the commissioners on a matter not scheduled on today's agenda. Do we have anyone in our audience this morning that would like to rise and speak? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. We have no old business for consideration. We'll dive right into new. Our first item this morning is Florence FFA requesting an issuance of a special events permit for malt, Venice, and spirituous liquor at Pathfinder Park Events Center, 6655 Highway 115 in Florence, for events in 2022. As follows: on July 22nd, July 23rd, from 5 p.m. to midnight both days, and on July 30th from 12 noon to 8 p.m. And with us this morning, we have Chrissy Hollenbeck and Tammy Ratkovich. Good morning, ladies. Do you want to tell us what's going on, what you're looking for this morning?
We're just looking for our liquor license for FFA to work with the Fremont County Fair to sell liquor for our events.
So what events are you talking about happening on these days?
The Junior Rodeo is Friday night, and then the Ranch Rodeo and Ranch Bronc Riding is on Saturday, and then the Livestock Sale the following Saturday, the 30th. So the 22nd.
22nd and 23rd of the rodeos.
Yeah.
Okay, so rodeos, and then in conjunction with the livestock sale as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about the setup there at Pathfinder Park, where you're wanting to sell, how you'll be fencing things off?
We're going to, where the pavilion is just north of the bathrooms, we were going to set it, I guess, beer garden, I guess, if you will.
There's a map right
yep,
there.
right there. Set it up right there, so we feel like we can kind of police it a little bit better as far as keeping it in control of who's buying and things like that. And then we'll have our 3 servers, I guess. They'll be tip certified and be checking all IDs. And then we are going to keep it in the grandstands. We won't let them go outside of the grandstands or in the little beer garden. That's kind of where we'd like to keep it.
And how will you be ensuring that no one under the age of 21 has access to alcohol? Will you be doing bans? Will you do
Yes.
okay.
Yes, ma'am. They'll all have a band when they come in, a different band as opposed to, I'm not sure what the fair is going to do as far as entry into the rodeo, but they'll all have a 21 band or say a yellow band or whatever it is that we put on them, so then nobody can be drinking that's not over the age of 21, and then checking all IDs, of course.
Okay,
So-
and are you going to be contracting with someone to provide those services for serving? Are they volunteers that you'll be training?
It's FFA alumni parents and board members that are going to be serving. They'll all be tip certified. We have one specific person who's going to be checking IDs, which is Cody West. We'll be checking all IDs, and nobody will be served until Cody has checked their ID and cleared their ID. So, and then we'll have people walking around who will go in, and if you don't look 21 or don't have a band, then obviously you need to go. So.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, do you have questions at this point?
Yeah, one, how are you going to ensure that they don't leave the grandstand area?
We are going to have people on either side of the grandstand, and that is going to be kind of hard to police because there are 3 entrances. But we felt like people needed to be there because if there's alcohol there, they're going to try to bring their own alcohol in there. So that's why we have chosen to do the keg beer and then certain specific cups that we know are our cups. So that's kind of what.
So you're going to have fences at the end of the grandstand that they have to enter through a gate and a fence, or how that's a big area.
It is. So we would like to put, I call it snow fence. I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but snow fence on either end. But the thing that we ran into is that it's an exit. So we'll probably just have to have people standing there is what it is. And then, of course, the ramp in the middle for the handicap ramp, we'll just have to have people there policing it, just to ensure that they're not bringing their own alcohol in and they're not leaving the grandstand and giving it to their little brother or whoever. Yeah.
Right? Nothing at this time. Okay, let's turn to Talia Smith, our recording clerk, for a staff report. Good morning, Talia.
Good morning. So Florence FFA put in their application with our office on June 15th, which did not meet the 45-day guideline. I also want to note that the one application does cover all 3 dates that they have listed. FFA has also provided our department with all the necessary documentation and the $100 check. It was also reviewed by the county attorney, and FCD, PHE, and the sheriff's office do recommend approval per their reports. They also posted notice of this hearing on June 27th.
Can you tell us why your application was late?
Yes, ma'am. At the risk of offending anybody, the events coordinator out at Pathfinder Park, the previous events coordinator, she was in charge of that, and unfortunately, the ball was dropped. I was asked the Thursday before I applied for the liquor license if I would handle it. I went to the Fair Board to get permission, and that is why it's late.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, any further questions, comments?
For me.
No.
All right, the board is open to a motion.
Wait a minute, I do have one question.
Okay.
Where's the livestock sale taking place?
When or where?
Where?
The sale's gonna be under the tents, under one of the big tents. Where they're gonna show at, we're gonna go ahead and sell under there as well.
Okay, so we didn't talk about that at all as far as beer being served for that, because this is for the grandstands.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's a totally different game. I guess that's why there's a picture of the parking lot in here. That makes sense now. But there needs to be a different plan then for the sale, which is going to be basically in the west parking lot.
That was my miscommunication. I was briefly misinformed, not by you, but that they were actually going to go into the arena
Like we did a few
and
years
come
ago.
through the arena. So that was a miscommunicated to me. So I was unaware of that.
Because again, we've just got to have
Control.
control of it,
Yes.
yeah, and there's none.
No, for sure not being in the tent over there, for sure. Because the buyer's barbecue will be inside.
Yeah, the buyer's barbecue will be inside the building.
Yeah.
And of course, we have Fair Board meeting tonight. Mark Macer is he's in charge of the sale committee. And what I can do is I can kind of talk to him tonight. Because originally we had talked about having it over in the arena, and because we did it during COVID year. And then we had decided at our last sale committee meeting just to go ahead and put it back over underneath the tent, since everything will be set up there. And I can visit with him tonight as if we can go ahead and possibly move it over, because what I'm hearing now is our big concert that we were gonna have after is getting axed because COVID.
Oh, dang.
So we found
That
this
stinks.
out just recently.
So, Madam Chair.
I guess I would recommend that they work out the details for serving in the tent. It's still the same premises because it's the Pathfinder Park. And then make the third day, the sale day, contingent on a satisfactory plan. And if it's not satisfactory, then we can notify you.
Okay,
Which you can get tonight at the
definitely.
Yes.
meeting, yeah.
Yes, sir.
For the control in the tent area.
Right.
Yes,
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Thank you for that, Madam Attorney.
Okay, Madam Chair, I have a
Okay.
motion if you're
All right.
ready.
Yes, I am prepared.
Okay, I move to approve the special events permit for Mount Venus Spirituous Liquors for Pathfinder Park Event Center. Actually, Pathfinder Park, I'm not gonna put Event Center. 6655 Highway 115 in Florence. It's for events on July 22nd and 23rd from 5 to 12. And the July 30th contingent upon a proper control plan for service of the beer.
which will need to be turned into the same clerk that you had worked with. And then she'll make sure that it's distributed to us and we will see it. All right, thank you.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the Florence FFA request for issuance of a special events permit for the malt, Venice, and spirituous liquor at Pathfinder Park for events on July 22nd, 23rd, and 30th, with the note that the third day will, excuse me, will be contingent on a satisfactory plan for serving inside the tent. Further discussion? My further discussion is excellent catch. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I had not realized. So I just wanted to note that and say thank you. All right, let's do roll call.
Thank you.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Good luck.
Thank
We
you.
hope it goes well. Item 2 is the approval to continue professional services agreements with Armstrong Consultants Incorporated. This is our airport professionals agreement. We have with us this morning Wes Brandt, our Fremont County Airport Manager. Good morning, Wes. Good morning. You want to tell us what's going on?
Sure. Turn the mic on there, Wes. The little button in front. Push the button down there. There you go.
So our contract with the Armstrong Consultants is due to expire in September. So we issued a request for qualifications from other airport consultants for planning and engineering services. We received qualifications from 3 consultants, one with Crawford, Murphy and Tilley, Armstrong Consultants, and Garver LLC. After reviewing all those qualifications, they all seem to be similarly qualified. And I recommend that we go with Armstrong Consultants, just because they're familiar with the airport. We have a great working relationship, and they're really responsive to our needs.
Okay, I'm looking for cost of such an agreement and length. How long?
Your
this-
microphone.
Gosh, I'm so sorry.
5 years.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking for the actual cost of this agreement and understand it's a 5-year contract? that
Right,
correct?
so it'd be a 5-year contract, and they don't really charge until we have a project, so they take a percentage of our airport projects as payment. But, you know, if we ask them questions throughout the year, they don't really charge us any fees until we have a project.
I think Armstrong's been really good about that over the years, and I know we've been working with
They
them for a
have, yeah.
while, with them doing a great job for us, so. Okay, gentlemen, questions, comments?
I think to that point, this is not the typical RFP where you have the list of all the prices like a contractor would give you for fixing a roof. And just, I think that's kind of the point where what we're talking about with Armstrong. You have a list of experts and here's the services they can provide us. And what sets Armstrong apart is their history with our airport and our county and their knowledge of you and all the operations out there. And so
Right.
I think that's what sets them apart with this RFP. And so
Absolutely agree. This isn't something that anyone can do. It takes a lot of experience, I think, and a lot of expertise, and I believe we've been really happy with what Armstrong has done with us over the years. All right, anything else?
no, ma'am.
Prepared for a motion?
I will move that we approve to continue the professional services agreement with Armstrong Consultants, Inc.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve this continuance of professional services agreement with Armstrong Consultants, Inc. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Grantham?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks, Wes.
Wes.
Thanks, Wes.
It is now 5:54. We have a public hearing scheduled to begin at 10 a.m., so we are going to take a brief recess and come back to order at 10 a.m. All right, I would like to call back to order this meeting of the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners and call to order a public hearing. Let's call this to order and begin for a conditional use permit number 22-001. Fremont Paving and Ready Mix requesting approval of an expansion of their Penrose pit located between Florence and Penrose on Highway 115 from 791 acres to 1,021.4 acres for the purpose of mining activity, dust suppression, and aggregate washing. And I believe we have with us this morning Jody Schreiber? Schreiber. All right. Good morning, Jody. Why don't you come on up?
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, and we'll let you talk a little bit about what your company's looking at doing and why.
You bet. You've got a wonderful map up there of the operation or the boundaries that we're looking at. We are currently mining out there, have been for many years, and are just simply looking to increase the acreage. We have everything essentially from the creek to Highway 15 already permitted. We just want to add the additional acreage west of the creek. And so that's why we're here today, is just to add that additional acreage to give us some more room for our operations. It looks like a lot, I understand that. We believe that the further north you go, the less aggregate there is. So we anticipate that probably the north 50% of a lot of this pit will be unusable material, or be so far deep that it's not feasible fiscally for us to go get it. And so that's why we're trying to expand, is to make sure that we've got some availability. Obviously with sites like this, you try to do that in advance, just so we've got years down the road and aren't scrambling for resources for available infrastructure projects and so forth. So this will allow us to have product in the Fremont County area and the surrounding areas for many years, we believe.
All right, gentlemen, questions for the applicant at this time?
So how many of the existing 791 acres in the permit, how much do you generally have open at any given time?
You bet. So, and I'd like to also chat a little bit about the acreage, but what we have, and it's kind of guided by what the state, because the state has very firm regulations on us, at any given point there can be 200 acres considered affected. So 100 acres is going to be in some form of reclamation. We're going to be backfilling, hauling in topsoil, and possibly doing some seeding, while the other 100 acres is going to be active mine site. And so that's what we're limited to at the moment through them, is 200 affected at any given time.
So the expansion, just, I guess that's my point. The expansion doesn't necessarily mean you're opening up another 220 acres.
Correct.
You're expanding for future material.
Correct, yes. And if I could, I spoke to Mr. Simpleman this morning. We were having some back and forth with the state quite a little bit up until the very end. And so actually the acreage, less some spots that we essentially said, all right, state, we want to take out certain areas on the south side along the Arkansas, as well as a piece along Highway 115. It helped us with some of the land on the south side. We just wanted to be a little more covered up to where people couldn't see us. And then on Highway 115, it kind of kept us away from some power lines. And I brought some additional maps with us. There's plenty of them for, yes.
Is that the
I think this is the newest one that shows all that acreage, but it also shows the phasing, so you'll see what our phases are. The phases are numbered, and that's kind of our anticipated flow through this project when you look at the phased mapping. So you'll see where it says active 100 acres, that's where we're currently active and doing some reclamation. There you go. And then we'll move over to phase 2 and phase 3. Where you see phase 8 and 9, we anticipate that to not be possibly mineable material. We wanted to include it because there could be the chance of that, but that's why that's in there, as well as the north portion of phase 4. So each one of these phases are roughly just shy of the 100 acres that we were talking about, 100 acres open with 100 acres of reclaiming. And so that is how we would like to move forward through the pit.
So phase 4, 8, and 9 are in the current permitted boundary, so
Correct,
correct?
yeah.
And what you're looking at is phase 6 and 7 portions?
Correct. Yes, 5, 6, and 7.
Oh, 5.
Yeah, so the 76 acres in between is the creek area,
Okay.
and we wanted to stay outside of that. We don't want to, be involved in any sort of waterway. You'll notice at the very bottom, though, there's the red box, and it states that's the Texas Creek crossing, and that will be how we move our product from one side to the other. So you'll see where it says the active 100 acres, that's where our current mine location or our processing equipment is located at. And we'll just keep that in that 100 acres there. And we'll continue to process in that spot where we have been. So we'll just move the product over using the Texas crossing area.
Okay, thank you.
But all of that is within that legal boundary.
So what's the elevation of that versus the river and properties south of the river?
I don't know the exact elevation. I could find that for you, but it's higher bluffs on either side of those.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right, we will turn next to Micah Simpleman, our Director of Planning and Zoning, for a staff report. Good morning, Micah.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. So referring agencies we reached out to was Fremont County Department of Transportation. They have reviewed the above application and have the following comments. There are no additional comments other than that the requirements are as recorded under Resolution 63 Series of 1996. The Fremont County Project Engineer stated that the application is to extend a current mineable land from 791 to 1,021.4 acres on the property located north of Arkansas River and County Road 119. The review of the application packet information resulted in the following comments. Stormwater drainage plan and report. There are no sedimentation ponds on the site or phase map, therefore a stormwater drainage plan and report is not required. No stormwater detention is required by the county regulations because no permanent structures are being added. At this time, I would recommend the approval of the application. Fremont County Department of Public Health and Environment stated that they also reviewed the submittal information for the proposed expansion of Penrose Pit. Although the operation has been in progress since the late 1900s, the department had no record of any approval for the use of chemical toilets by the Fremont Department of Health. The Fremont County OWTS regulations reference the use of chemical toilets. In the section, a portable chemical toilet may be used by permit from the Fremont County Board of Health. This office has no record of a permit ever being issued. As for that, let's see, when was it? They have gotten the permit. It's permit S 22-067. So they have fixed that issue with chemical toilets. As for my department, we recommend approval of this with conditional standard conditions and also with the waivers of a waiver for landscaping and a waiver of lighting.
So Micah, the conditions that you just mentioned, I'm looking at them here in our application packet. Do those need to be included in a motion if we choose to approve this?
No,
or are
because
those already in place?
Those are all standard
Okay.
conditions.
All right, thank you. Questions for Micah?
I would assume those conditions are in the original, or the other CUP as well?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, which was mentioned a minute ago.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Jody. We'll let you go ahead and have a seat. We have at least 3 folks who would like to stand and speak on this. The first slip I got was from Mike Mueller. If you would like to come to the microphone, turn it on, tell us what's on your mind. Up next will be Ariel Neary, followed by Cara Pierce. So if there's anyone else who would like to speak, please fill out a form over there, excuse me, and bring it up to the podium. And if you would turn that on, please. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning. I'm just going to read from this because I'm a terrible
That's fine.
speaker.
No worries.
My wife and I just recently purchased a lot across from the gravel pit on June 23rd, the date your letter came out, notifying landowners that there's a possible effect from the proposed expansion. This is very exciting to be able to live in such a beautiful, peaceful area with great neighbors for us. We understand the vital role this quarry has played in Fremont County since the early 80s, and that a lot of residents probably don't even know it exists because it has been hidden behind hills and bluffs and has not been seen easily. After studying the information that you mailed out, it was not really clear to us what the expansion entailed, so I visited the Planning and Zoning Office where many more maps were available in the expansion proposal. It was still not really clear to me exactly what the expansion was going to be now and possibly in the future, since there was no topography on the map, and that's what I was looking at to try and figure out across the river. Our concern is that the quarry will now, or in the future, expand right to the river and become visible to all of us across from it. If the hills and bluffs that are there now are removed, that kind of expansion will severely degrade our quality of life as well as our property values due to the visual and the noise level. We just want to understand the extent of the expansion and the future expansions that are anticipated so we can decide if we're going to invest large amounts of money developing our lot or try and sell it, most likely at a loss at this point if it is expanding to the river. Since we can't live the rest of our lives, this is supposed to be our final place, having a front row seat to the quarry. And looking at the map, we're right across pretty much from that large purple area, and there's nice bluffs there that are vegetation along the river that are blocking it, as well as where that purple wiggly stripe is. Now where I think it's 8 Mile Creek comes in is that white area, and then you hit the orange there, is my understanding from what was just talked about, that orange area is going to be the main truck area from the one side of the creek to the other, and that's going to be in our front yard. So we're a little concerned about this, and we just heard about it. I don't believe anybody along that area there where the subdivision is knew about this until just recently when your letter came out, the 23rd. We're kind of hoping you can postpone a decision so we can understand more and learn more about what this is going to do to us. I mean, this is our future.
All right, thank you. And we will allow Ms. Schreiber to address concerns after everyone has spoken. All right, up next, Ariel Neary.
Morning, folks.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so yeah, one of the big things that, an issue has been is we've had, a certified letter mailed to us about 2 weeks ago. My partner Kara and I are property owners directly across from what looks to be the main traffic area. 13 acres, spent about $500,000 on it, and it was going to be our retirement area, not unlike Mr. Mueller here. But as you can tell, it would directly impact the quality of life, noise pollution. I mean, we're already directly across, not too far from the existing mining area, and we can hear these trucks. These trucks aren't, your average truck. They're trucks about the size of this room. So they got a fierce amount of vibration going on, and all this stuff affects us. I wouldn't expect any of you guys to want to live near that, and so we're asking for some consideration on that note. Need more time for discovery. 2 weeks just doesn't get it. I'm not sure if the Collin family's trying to slide under the radar here, but it doesn't fly for us. We need more time to find out what's going on. Environmental impact studies, any of that been done? Noise pollution, quality of life, again, is. So our main concern here, among that I've already mentioned, there's a neighbor I talked to in the area. Older couple, they've been there for a long time, longer than the mines or the operation's been over there. And so I said, hey, are you going to be attending the meeting? And she says, no, I don't think it's a good idea for us, Ariel. I said, why? She didn't expand on it much, but she said because of retaliatory issues. I said, do you mean from the county? Do you mean from the Cologne family or the owners operators? And she's frail, they're elderly, and so she didn't want to expand any farther, but that speaks volume to me. You know, you shouldn't have to live in that environment, let alone what's going on across the river. So, in a nutshell, we just need a continuation here, some kind of a postponement or something, so we can learn more about what's going on rather than signing these guys off to go do their thing, because we are directly impacted. And we, not unlike the Muellers, would have to sell at a great loss. So your consideration is valued, of course, and thank you for all your time.
Okay, I have a quick question for you,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
You're showing your address as being in Westcliff?
Well, yeah, that's where we reside at, but that's going to be our home, was going to be our home in the future.
Okay, so you're looking at a future move.
Well,
I
yeah.
just needed to verify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Kara Pierce. Good morning.
Morning.
Excuse me. I am Ariel's partner, and we own 797 County Road 119, which is 12-point-something acres, as he says. And we are very concerned because the sound is already impactful right along the river where we have our hammock and sometimes a camper as we're deciding to build here or not based on this development. The dust, the habitat, the animals, the riverside, you know, how's that going to affect the river? How's it going to affect the water? How's it going to affect everything in there as far as habitat? Our property values, huge concern, huge concern. You know, we're looking to build our dream home down there on this 12 acres and have our cows and not have to deal with dust and noise. And we like the white-tailed deer. We like the bunnies. We like everything that comes through. The turkeys. They go right through our lot, right across the river into that. What's going to happen to all those turkeys that live through there? Anyways, so the habitat, the noise, the dust, and I would say, please, that seeding and reclamation should be a requirement, not an option, and preserving that water's edge should be of utmost importance, and moving it. She said there's not much more to the north, but I don't think that that means that we rape it along the south, along the river's edge. Like Ariel said, more time. We just got this 2 weeks ago in a registered letter and a really shrunken map. So we couldn't tell what this was all about. We never received any of the previous notices about this hearing, about this action. So in 2 weeks, we're trying to learn as much as we can to make an informed decision, and a continuance would be absolutely delightful.
So let me ask you a question as well.
Sure.
If I may. You mentioned a couple of times that you have been in the last 2 weeks working to find out everything you can. So what steps have you taken? What have you done to learn about the operation and what they are requesting of us?
In collaboration with Mr. Mueller and Aaron over there, he's done a lot of the research, and we've shared out a lot of the documents and the full-size maps, but we just got these like 5 days ago through email. And so we've been trying to muster together, talk about it, come and listen and learn today, voice our opinions. And so at this point, the very least we would request is a continuation, because, you know, this is his livelihood as well. And so we'd like to find a balance where the river's edge is completely preserved and any operations are further to the north, like cut that back acreage along the river more to the west. I don't see any buffer. I see the
If you could stay at the microphone, please, so you stay on the record.
Of course. You know, the 13-acre and the 18-acre buffers where it'll be left untouched, we'd like to see that extend along the whole riverside. That's, you know, ultimately, because that preserves the aquatic, the riverside, the beauty, the bluffs, as he was speaking of, and they can still build their dream home and not be impacted by the sounds, the dust. I mean, it's loud when you're in the hammock in our front yard right now. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. And David, is it Barbarina? Is that close?
Yes, I was hoping that'd be a little bit later in the discussion.
You're actually the last person
Oh,
who
I am?
has requested to speak, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm on a Texas transplant, so please don't hold that against me.
Okay, you're done. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
have a seat.
I live in Texas. I've been searching for a second home retirement home in Costa Rica, Panama. Didn't pan out, so I came to Colorado. I'm in Fort Worth taking care of my father, who has Alzheimer's, so I come out 1 week a month, and I'm eventually planning to build out here. The previous owner, the real estate agent, I only found out this yesterday. First of all, I bought my property on June 3rd. I found out about this yesterday from Ariel, because he's my neighbor.
Okay.
I'm 30 yards from the river, so I'm not right on the river. I don't know if that gives me,
Okay.
I don't know, but I thought I would speak anyway. So I'm about 30 yards from the river, right across from the dairy farm where 36 empties into, the road. So again, this is, I'm worried about real estate value and all the other things everyone else mentioned. And I was planning to build a really nice place for friends and family to come visit, not an Airbnb or anything like that, just friends and family for vacation and also to live there. So that's my concern. Is just I don't know what all the studies are supposed to be done about something being built, but it seems like in addition to all of this, there ought to be something about how this affects homeowners, because I didn't hear any of that in what was displayed. Because there's a lot of homeowners, and like some of them have lived there for years and years. I'm new, but I do kind of feel for them as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I would just like to say, it may have taken you a few years, but you finally saw the light.
Oh, I
And
have.
you realized Colorado's the place to be.
Yes, I love Indian Springs
Better late than
Campground,
never.
and I am loving it here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we have received a couple more requests to speak. Jimmy Hudson. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Jimmy Hudson. I live at 1667 County Road 119, which is just at the edge of the furthest expansion of the proposed pit. A few years back, we had a flood in the area to the north of Highway 50, and all of the water came down that 8-mile ravine. If they mine that, isn't that going to strip that ground bare and add to that problem? The other issue is reclamation. There's nothing over there now. What kind of reclamation will they put together? We'll have a big bare pit over there after all this is said and done. We moved to the area 37 years ago, and I commuted from Colorado Springs for 15 years just for the privilege of living in this area. I think they're imposing on our livelihood down here, our well-being. I think the people that live in this area should be considered in this decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Pamela Hudson. Good morning.
We've been down here since '85, and we expanded, so we have like at least 6 more lots that we only have a Social Security when our business closes. We could use that for retirement, sell them, some of them.
Okay.
Besides our little farm. It would be detrimental to the property value. As it is now, even on the weekend, you can hear them now over there. It'd be so noisy and dusty and just the peaceful of, that's why we're here. And this is gonna be really hard, us financially.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who else would like to speak, anyone else who would like to speak before we close the public portion of this hearing? Go ahead and come on up.
I just forgot to mention one thing.
Okay, briefly.
That the subdivision was platted in 1912, so those lots have been there a lot longer than the mine.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? Seeing none, we're going to close the public portion of this hearing, and I will invite Ms. Schreiber back up to the microphone to address the issues that she just heard.
You bet. And I want to thank everybody that came. Fremont Paving and Ready Mix is based out of Canyon City, and so we appreciate our landowners nearby and their willingness to come out and work with us on projects such as this. We've always wanted to be a good neighbor, and we hope to continue such with this expansion. A lot of the concerns that have been addressed, we have addressed already, and we currently do activities to try to mitigate a lot of those. When it comes to the crossing concern, that is our just anticipated crossing. If that's going to cause an issue, we have actually discussed moving that further to the north, but we had to have kind of like an area to put it in for this permit. And we've even discussed it with the state that Texas crossing may be something in a different location. So that could definitely be something we could alter. And we left it as a Texas crossing because that is a very limited impact, because again, we're trying very hard to limit the impact of the property, not only for our purposes, but for the landowners themselves, the folks that own the land, as well as the neighbors. When it comes to, I guess, needing more time, I apologize, I guess this has been in the works on the state side since the end of last year. I think there was probably plenty of time at that point for some public comment. And I know that some people have come in and just purchased the property. So I'm glad that at least you're here to voice your concerns, and maybe we can figure out ways, or at least discuss how we are mitigating some of your concerns. The environmental impacts. So when we have a site such as this, we have to go through on the state side not only the Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety, but also the Public Health and Environment, both the Water Quality Control Division as well as the Air Pollution Control. And we have permits for both. And I know there was some concerns about stormwater and possibly some flooding. And we actually have to have mitigation strategies on site. And gravel sites like this tend to hold water because you're mining inward, and so you're actually creating somewhat of a bowl in some areas, which is very beneficial to holding stormwater. And then we also have berms along the face of the Arkansas, and that is used to kind of hide us from the folks on the other side of the river, as well as to mitigate that sound. We also use sound dampening devices on our backup. We've got to have backup alarms on our vehicles out there, and so we've used some of those as well, and we can continue to do such things. Another one was the habitat, the dust, and the river concern. Again, we've had comments from the local Department of Public Health as well as Planning and Zoning, as well as the state. We also have to get with the Colorado Wildlife and have them comment too. They'll go out there and do an assessment of all the wildlife and then give us strategies to be low impact, and so we have to manage that on site as well. It could be changing the fencing that we have, monitoring burrowing owls. That's not necessarily in this case, but it's in some of our other sites. So they'll come out, take a look at the site, and tell us what to do to mitigate any impact to the habitat out there. I think that kind of addresses the studies that are done on this project, as well as the property values. I know everybody's concerned, but that site's been mining for years and years and years, and it hasn't impacted negatively as far as I'm aware. And I haven't recently had any concerns with noise or dust or anything like that, and by all means, if you've had any, please let us know. The reclamation, that's something else. The state of Colorado requires us, they hold us to an extremely high bar, and they hold a bond through Fremont Paving and Ready Mix to reclaim the site. So we've got to reclaim it back to original ground. Essentially, that means we've got to have a reclamation plan with topographic, how that's going to look at the end, as well as what type of seeding we're going to use, depending on how the landowner wants to use the property later. So if they want to use it for rangeland later, then we have to use a rangeland seed mix. And so it takes years for us to get any, the state just doesn't release property. They're very diligent. We have to have a certain amount of vegetation on the property that is regrown before it's ever released. And until then, we're still responsible to go out every year and mitigate weeds and continue to try to vegetate the property. I think I'm trying to address all the different issues that came up, and I I hope that answered
Can you
several of
talk a
them.
little bit about what you do for dust mitigation specifically? I know you say
bet.
you work to control, but can you address exactly what you do?
You bet. So we bring water on site. We use it to dust all of the roads as well as any active sites. And then a lot of our crushing units have wash bars across them or spray bars that spray the material as it's being processed as well to mitigate that. Some have covers over them as well. And we're only allowed a certain amount of dust emissions per site based upon our permit with the state of Colorado.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about, on the expansion, as far as where the map shows it approaching the river and the concerns, that'll be coming right now? I'm sorry about that. Didn't have my mic on. Justin's not here to remind me.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that river approach there on the south side, and what the topography is there, and how close an actual open mine would actually get to the waterway.
You know, these are high up on a bluff, so we're not going to be down in the water. And in fact, on where our current location is, we've got activities that bring us straight out to the bluff. And we've been using earthen berms to block the vision, and then those earthen berms not only block vision, noise, it also then protects the river from any sediment that may come off the property. So it essentially holds all the water in. So I appreciate the concerns, as do we, because we do not want to impact a waterway in any way, shape, or form. That's why we went through the state of Colorado on this one pretty thoroughly. And using our current mining practices that we have in our current affected area, there has not been any problem with us mining up to the edge of the bluff.
So I think that kind of leads me into my next part when you're talking about reclamation and the involvement of the state, both on the front end and on the back end. When you start dealing with waterways, there's a reason why I think you mentioned in that 76-acre parcel why you want to stay away from the creek. Yeah, same reason why you want to stay away from the river when you start getting the state involved in dealing with the
Right. Anytime you
waterway.
affect waterways, it is very difficult, and we try to tend away from impacting any waterway whatsoever. We don't want to even impact stormwater flow, so that's why we have those berms. We don't want to have any of the water carrying sediment off the property, if at all possible. And we're allowed to maintain stormwater on site for 72 hours without augmentation, as long as it percolates through, and that's what we prefer, because that's an easy way to mitigate stormwater on the property, and then not impact neighbors, because again, that's what we're trying to do, is hide ourselves, be as little impact as possible to the neighbors as well as the environment and the wildlife out there.
So going back to the reclamation again then, given, there's a comment about, what would it be taken back to, considering the condition of the land before you even put a shovel in it. First of all, how long is that process? From when you first take gravel out to the end of reclamation? How long is that process?
You bet. It could be a very long time, or it could be a very short amount of time. It's all driven by market. Right now, the market is crazy, and I'm sure you all know that. Everybody needs material, and so the material goes faster, so you're going through processes quicker. The longest part of the reclamation is just getting vegetation to grow, and so we will have an approved seed mix by usually the local NRCS office. We'll try to work with them to find out if we want to mulch it with some straw, whether or not crimping it in, drilling it, the seed, what's the best for the environment. And then we try to go out on a regular basis and ensure that it takes, but Mother Nature has to help us out. We don't go out there and irrigate. We allow just natural stormwater to help us with the growth process of the vegetation. So the vegetation of the property is always the longest piece. For us, we never leave a full 100 acres completely open, because if tomorrow something were to happen, we needed to shut the doors, we don't want to have open areas. We try to backfill 3 to 1 to kind of where we're going to be at reclamation, as we move through the process, so that not 100 acres is just wide open.
Right.
It's good business practice for us, as well it helps us at the end with reclamation. So when we're finished with 100 acres, we may have 20 that needs a little dirt work left before we topsoil it and seed it. So it's a really tough number to put down because we just don't know how quickly we can go through, say, 100 acres or a 20-acre section, and then Mother Nature has to help us with the rest.
And what agency is in charge of monitoring the reclamation process?
The state's Department of Natural Resources, or Division of Natural Resources, the Department of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety.
Okay.
Yeah, and they even come out and monitor for weeds. So I'm trying to get one site released. It's got great vegetation, but it has too many weeds on it. So we've got, I mean, they're extremely particular, and so now we've got to go out and do some mitigation on the weeds, and then hopefully we can get it to be released. So we can ask on a regular basis to have things released, and they have released some of the acreage on this property. We were successful in the revegetation of part of it, which is great because sometimes it's hard. You guys know what the climate is around here, and if there's not a lot of water, it gets a little tough. But
So with the expansion, do you anticipate any increase in truck traffic, or is it?
So the expansion does not, as you alluded to, doesn't expand any of the project. It's based on the market. So as Canyon City, Fremont County needs to have aggregate, that's what drives the trucks. So if the market were to, if we hit a recession, things are going to slow down. If we aren't in a recession and things are going great and the building is booming, roads and bridges, highways, that's going to just increase the truck traffic, but it has nothing to do with the
Right.
acreage.
Right. So just a couple more questions. First of all, the crossing, the Texas crossing, are there possibilities of something farther north?
It is, yeah, you bet. And we've actually talked about it with the landowner. We want to be as, like I said, less impactful. We just kind of put it as a marker because we don't anticipate being there for a while. We have to get through phase 1, 2, 3, 4, which is going to take us some time. So they asked how we're going to cross, and we said we're going to have a Texas crossing, and they wanted to know a rough acreage amount of what we would impact of that waterway. And so that's why we put it there. By no means is that going to be the end. And if we need to move it based on your suggestion, we would definitely be willing to do so.
Well, that would be my suggestion.
Mm-hmm. The reason being is because that's right where we have our mining operations on that far south side, that far southwest corner of the hatch that you see there. And so it just made most sense to reduce the amount of truck traffic. Again, we try to, anytime you don't move a truck, it's easier, less fuel, less emissions, and so forth. And so we wanted to have it there because it's a less of a haul. But if we needed to move it for other impacts, we could do that.
The only other thing is, given the longevity of this operation there, have you guys, what has been your interaction with the residential community south of the river, mitigating complaints? And what complaints have you come across in these years?
You bet. Very few complaints. On occasion, if our berm isn't high enough, we might have that. But to be honest with you, I haven't had any complaints from the county that has been relayed to us in quite some time.
Okay, thank you.
I got a few questions or comment to start with. One on the reclamation part. It's you talked about it well, but the state's requirements and stuff, and that's also they don't just release it; they kick it back to the Fremont Conservation District, who has to release it as well. So there's a lot of fingers in that reclamation because reclamation is pretty serious. It is hard, as dry as it is out there in my dry speech, but to have that come back with grass. But I think they do hold any individual that has to reclaim anything to the fire to get that. And I use fire and dry at the same time, to get that to going as good as they can. So that's just a comment. What right now, Commissioner Grantham asked you about the trucks, but what is the current truck haul out of there right now? And I know the market dictates that, but do you know what that is right now?
I apologize, I don't. We haven't had a huge uptick, just because this is one of our bigger sites that the entire operation uses, and so the truck traffic is fairly consistent. Obviously over COVID we had some slowing down, but we haven't seen any large increases.
And then what are the current hours of operation?
8 a.m. to 5 p.m., I believe. It could be 6 o'clock. I don't know if there's any restrictions or not. Right now, we've got a highway project that's working out of that site, and so there could be longer hours right now, just because we are moving product for the highway overlay.
Monday through Saturday
days,
from
yeah?
7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Monday through Saturday?
That's in the original conditions.
And then I know, again, it's market-driven, and you see you got to do 1, 2, 3, and 4 first. Do you have any idea, a time frame of when, if this is approved, when you'd ever get over to that other side?
You know, it's again difficult. It would be years. We're talking maybe 10 plus years. And it all is driven by whether or not anything in those phases 8 and 9 up above have anything. But honestly, about halfway north on 2 and 3, you're not going to see anything. Essentially, where you see the cutout that's for that sanitation district, that's where you start to see, based on some of our previous potholing that we did. Potholing, we'll go in there and just dig out a hole and see how deep it is. Overburden is way too deep, and the rock is way too sparse. For us to go about 50% of the way up. So unless we find some particular veins in there, those should go, I would think, you might see each one of those phases in a 5 to 10 year time frame.
And then I think it was Mr. Hudson asked, but it clearly shows there that you're not going to do any mining in the creek, right?
Correct,
and
yes,
so
none.
if there is a flood like there was a few years ago, Mother Nature does what it's going to do in that, for instance, but there won't be any disturbing of that to change it from its natural
Correct.
habitat. Somebody else had mentioned this earlier too. A lot of folks don't even know this is there because you can't see it from very few places can you see it.
That's how we try to operate everywhere. We find it easier. We don't want to have to interrupt our neighbors as much as we possibly can. And so not only in this site, but we operate like 40 other sites throughout the state of Colorado. So this is one of many that we operate, and we try darn hard to just keep out of everybody else's way. It just makes it easier that way.
Well, I know that bluff is there. I don't know how tall it is. I know it's a high bluff, and I know that sound changes a lot too. I live probably, 10 miles from the railroad tracks, and every once in a while I hear the train like it's in the front door.
Right.
So, and other times I don't even know that there's a train that goes through Canyon City, but sound travels differently all the time depending on the atmospheric pressure and everything else. But so there's a lot of factors that go in with that. How often, we talked about the dust present, how often do they run those trucks? It's really, really dry out there now, as I've said a time or two. But
multiple times a day.
Several times.
Yeah,
depending on
multiple
the truck
times a day.
traffic too, I'm sure.
Yeah, truck traffic conditions. So if it had just rained, obviously we're not going to waste water because we're mindful of that. It costs us money, plus it's not efficient. But yes, as soon as conditions warrant on site, water trucks are going full time.
Thanks.
Anything else? Not now.
No.
Quick question for you. Do you happen to know what most of the gravel from this specific site is used for? Is it road base? Is it used in?
Multiple things. So we
Okay.
have a washing operation on site. So it washes sand for us, which is good for concrete. We also can have asphalt product out of there. There's landscape material that comes out of there through Rocky Mountain Landscape as well. They work in conjunction with us on this project. So you've got everything from homeowner aggregate that's used for landscaping, as well as concrete for anything from sidewalks, driveways, and then roadway material for asphalt.
Okay, thank you. I also would like to kind of follow up a little bit on what Commissioner Grantham just talked about being a good neighbor and reaching out to your neighbors, especially those who do live south of the river, because that's who's here today, and that is who is showing some concerns about the operation. How easy or difficult do you think it is for someone who looks up and hears a lot of noise and sees a lot of dust? Are they going to know who to call, how to contact you? Have you ever tried to reach out to them or to give contact information? I'm curious to know what steps they would need to take to try to reach you.
You bet. So the letter that they have should have the contact information. Also, according to the state regulations, our sign on the front entrance has to have our contact information, which it does. And it says right on the front door, hey, it's Fremont Paving and Ready Mix. Anytime that there's an issue with a permit, probably 90% of the time you're going to get in touch with me.
Okay. All right. You guys covered it pretty well. I think that's all I had. Anything else?
I have one more question. So we've talked about that edge of that bluff, what is the buffer of where potential mining would be in phase 6 and 7 and the edge of that bluff?
It would go to the edge of it, as we currently have it, but we have the earthen berm that stays in between us and the south side of the Arkansas. Sorry, it would go to the edge. We'd have the earthen berm on the edge, just like we have currently. So our current, I mean, if you look up there now, you'll see the same thing. We actually just reclaimed to the edge of the bluff at our current site. And so we would continue that mining that we've been doing for a few years now without complaint, without any issue as far as I'm aware, would continue on phases 5, 6, and 7.
Is that
in
a
the exact
natural
same
berm
nature.
that's there, or is it a berm that they put there?
It's a natural berm. So we just use material. So any of the overburden, it's great. Sometimes it's rock. You'll see a lot of the landscape rock sitting up there. And so it's hard to distinguish what's what. You know, it's hard to tell because they've got the landscape rock that's sitting up there creating the natural berm. So you can't see inside to the process area.
So the idea then is, just to be clear, that no matter how close you get to the edge of the bluff, no one on the south side should see the operation and should actually see what you were doing.
Correct, and that is per the CUP that we currently have, that we have to have that earthen berm up, yes.
Okay, so there is some sort of a vision boundary there.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right, if there's nothing else, gentlemen, the chair awaits your pleasure. Thank you, Jody. I would like to point out, we also did receive at least one letter for someone who did not show up at the public hearing today, but I just want it to be on the record. They discussed the same issues that already have been discussed here today, but we are taking that single letter into account as well.
Well, Madam Chair, I have a motion for you.
I'm prepared to accept. Oh, microphone. There you go.
Madam Chair, I have a motion for you. I would move that we approve the CUP 22-001 for the Fremont Paving and Ready Mix, Inc., requesting approval of the expansion of the Penrose Pit located between Florence and Penrose and Highway 115 from the 791 acres to the 1,021.4 acres for the purpose of mining activity, dust suppression, and aggregate washing, to include the waiver for landscaping, as reclamation is already in the plan, and a waiver of the lighting that is requested.
I will second that if you'll add to your motion that that crossing move further north.
I would, I'd be fine with that change, that the crossing be moved farther north.
That's feasible, I second that.
Where feasible, I think it'd probably be important, because ultimately this has to be doable for them to be able to cross in any given area, but highly recommend that they move that thing north.
I would second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve Conditional Use Permit 22-001, Fremont Paving and Ready Mix, Inc., to expand the Penrose Pit located between Florence and Penrose on Highway 115 from 791 acres to 1,021.4 acres for the purpose of mining activity, dust suppression, and aggregate washing. This motion and approval for resolution number 25 does include the two waivers of landscaping and lighting as requested, and it also does include the request to move the crossing north as feasible. Is that it? All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, one, I just want to note that, again, the original conditions, which there's 13 of them, I think, are all in there, which are concerning dust, traffic, all the typical haul truck, trips per day, hours of operation, all that is still in play.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Roll call.
Commissioner Grantham. Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you all so much for being here today, having the conversations with us. And if you do experience issues, I urge you to reach out to Fremont Paving and Ready Mix. We have no further business to come before us. This meeting is adjourned.